Good evening, Judge Reynolds. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing really well.
First, before I start letting people in, I wanted to say thank you for um, agreeing to participate in this call with us. I don't take for granted that you don't have a busy schedule and any lack of timeliness as far as getting information to you. Again, I apologize as well. We're a small team, and actually, we are a volunteer-based chamber here in Columbus, in Muskogee County.
Okay.
So we're managing with about five people that have full-time jobs as well. So again, I apologize for any tardiness getting this information, any information over to you.
No, I'm sure it's going to be fine. I run a campaign with the same situation, so I understand. In fact,
Okay.
the person that's my person doing things for me is a volunteer. So she's probably pushing because she only, volunteers on certain days and stuff. So,
Oh no, no, no. She wasn't pushing at all. I just understand how, I don't want the perception to be that we weren't. It's just that trying to do everything and everything by
yeah.
yourself is really just two of us that are working towards getting things done. And then I'm transitioning out of the president role at the end of the
Oh,
year. It's
okay.
been a great experience. I actually spent my first 2 years actually getting things in order for the chamber. And so we're in a good place, and so it's a good feeling to transition a working entity versus giving somebody something that they have to work on. So
That's good. What do you anticipate the meeting being like tonight?
Uh, to be frank, we had a lot of people register, but we always have a lot of people register, and I don't know if it's, uh, and also to be very transparent, in our community, we don't support each other. So if food is not involved or entertainment, it's hard to get us out to do things like this. And this was just spoken at City Council, and I know I'm going on a tangent, but where things are concerned with our community speaking with candidates, especially our younger community members. It's touch and go. However, I am live streaming this to our YouTube channel, and I do have some questions for you. Also, just an opportunity for you to share your platform. And so we can still get the message out if we don't have a lot of people on the call.
All right. Well, I'm excited and grateful to be here.
Well, thank you so much. And I see it is after 6:30. I
Yes.
would like to allow maybe about just a couple more seconds to get more people in. I do see one of our other Black Chamber presidents is on the line, so I'm going to go ahead and admit her right now.
All right. Thank
All right.
you.
And if you're open, Judge Reynolds, she may have some questions as well. If you're open to answering some questions from her, if that's okay.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Hello, Mrs. Hines. How are you? I'm not sure if she can talk, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Judge Reynolds, again, I like to be mindful of time. And let me actually turn my camera on as well.
Give me 1 second. Let me.
Mhm.
Hi, this is Shirley Hines. Sorry.
And that's okay, no problem, Ms. Hines. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for putting this on.
No problem. As I was telling Judge Reynolds, I'm sorry, we are going to proceed on. Again, this is live streaming on our YouTube channel, so we will be sharing any information that we acquire here. Judge Reynolds, again, I want to say on behalf of the River Valley Black Chamber of Commerce, I would like to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I understand how campaign season. I don't understand personally, but I can see visually how busy and time consuming. Um, Campaign season can be. So I want to say thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening. So what I'm going to do now is just give a brief overview of why we are here. So River Valley Black Chamber of Commerce believes small businesses need a voice in every level of government, from local to state to federal, national governments as well. Today is an opportunity for business owners or representative of business owners to talk directly with a candidate for Secretary of State, Judge Reynolds. Also, our goal is to simply learn more about Judge Reynolds and to hear directly from you as a candidate for Secretary of State and what your goals or your plans are when you become Secretary of State. Okay. Just a brief overview of what I have. Again, tonight we're pleased to welcome Judge Penny Brown Reynolds, an attorney, former Fulton County State Court judge, educator, a longtime public service servant, and nearly 3 decades of experience in law and government. She is the Democratic nominee for Georgia's Secretary of State, and tonight we have an opportunity to hear her vision for Georgia and particularly our small business community. Judge Reynolds, welcome to River Valley Black Chamber of Commerce, and we're glad to have you with us.
Oh, I'm excited to be here this evening. Thank you all so much for putting this together because it's important with businesses. And so, what I'd like to do is kind of talk with you all a little bit. And then, if we have some time later, as people are joining or people are watching later, the wonderful thing about technology is you never go by who is here now. The whole convenience of it is that they can go back later and they can check it out and watch it. But I want to commend you all for everything that you're doing. You've done an excellent job doing this, and I've had an opportunity to talk with you. So, good evening to everyone this evening. And when you were saying that you know how busy I am, you can tell how a person will be a public servant based on how they're running for office. If you're not going to make yourself available, no matter how small the crowd is, or you have to go to certain events or you have to have big rallies, then are you that person who will be the one who believes that you're humble enough to be a public servant? So I thank you for saying that. Yes, I am busy, but I'm never too busy for the people that need to really hear this. And businesses is an area where the Secretary of State's office is. It's a firm belief that I have that it's my job to try to get to as many people as I can. And technology allows us to do that. So I'm really grateful to be with you this evening. I think about this office, the Secretary of State's office, and we're really thinking during this time. And again, for people who may have just joined, I'm Judge Penny Brown Reynolds. I'm the Democratic nominee for Secretary of State. And we think of this office during this particular time, we think about elections. And so we know that it is our responsibility, all of us, to go out and vote now more than ever, because we know that as people are thinking about their pocketbooks and wanting them to have a better life, we have to somehow make the connection for people to say that your vote is directly connected to what matters to you, to your health care, to business opportunities, to your education. And we've made it separate. We're just saying it's about democracy when we need to start speaking the language that everybody understands. And that's about opportunity. It's about access. It's about voting because government is supposed to be helping people build something that they can thrive and outlive even after they're gone. Thank you for that introduction. Yes, I've had a life of public service. I am a lawyer, the only lawyer in the race, former judge, professor, civil rights leader, and business person, businesswoman. I ran the Office of Civil Rights for the Department of USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, and was the chief EEO officer for over 117,000 employees and over 4,000 offices throughout the world. And so I have a business acumen. I have had my own businesses, and it's taught me a lot that for me, government shouldn't simply tell people what to do in terms of the rules, but government should make sure that the people can understand, right? Navigate the system and kind of have a fair opportunity to succeed. And that's what I'm doing. So tonight is particularly important as I'm speaking with Black business owners to understand that forming a business, which is what you would have to do at the Secretary of State's office, is not the same as building a business, right? And getting an LLC is not the same thing as getting capital. that you
Right.
need to sustain it. And getting a license is not the same as getting customers, or even having an idea, as you know, is not the same thing as having the network, the knowledge, the resources necessary to turn that idea into generational wealth. There have a lot of people with a lot of good ideas, but we need more than that. So I don't want the Secretary of State's office under my leadership to simply manage the bureaucracy. I want to be a Secretary of State who's asking you the question, what can this office do to help Georgians succeed? All Georgians. So tonight, what I'd like to do is listen if I can. So, yes, if you have questions and I can answer them, I want the audience to know that I was not sent any questions in preparation. So, a lot of times as a judge, we'll say, I'll take it under advisement because I want to make certain that I can answer the questions if I'm able to. But I want to be able to not have barriers between me and people. So, my vision is simple for Georgia. Georgia should not just be a state where you can start a business. It should be a state where you can have real opportunities to sustain that business, to grow your business, to employ people in your business, and most importantly, to pass that on to the next generation. So, what kind of Secretary of State do I plan on being for you all and then for businesses? First of all, a lot of times people don't even know what the Secretary of State office does. So let me just cover that quickly if I can. There are five major areas. The office is organized around elections. I am the chief elections officer in the state. That means I certify all of the elections. I set the policies because we know that our elections are handled on the local level, which we're happy about because as close as we can to get to the people, we know that it is our neighbors, it's our friends, it's our people who go to church and play soccer with us that runs our elections. And that's what we want because we want them to be accountable. But I oversee that process, the election machines and policies and education about elections. That's very, very critical, particularly at a time when people are trying to not have a voice for everyone. I oversee corporations and businesses, professional licensing boards, securities, and then charities. That's the five divisions. And that's how the office is set out now. And then they have an administrative arm, but I'm going to have another division of constituent services. Because one of the things that I've been traveling all around the state, we can't get anybody to answer the phone. Just answer the telephone. When have we gotten to the point that government agencies don't believe that they need to be accountable enough to answer the phone? Well, that's one of the small things that I can tell you that we're going to implement first of all. So let's talk about the depth and breadth of the oversight that I provide. We have 43 professional licensing boards in Georgia. And that would be maybe about 568,000 active licenses the last time I checked, which was about May of 2026. That means that we're talking more than 500,000 Georgians whose ability to work is connected to my office, to this office, the Secretary of State's office. So when I'm talking about economic opportunity, I'm not just talking about corporations. I'm talking about people who need licenses, nurses, cosmetologists, contractors, electricians, plumbers, architects. Think about all of those, chiropractors, everybody you could think of who has to have a license, and small business owners whose livelihood depends on getting a license and then getting that license renewed. And then what about businesses? So as of August, we have actively in Georgia 1,607,000 business entities. And then 1.2 million of those are LLCs. About 200,000 are profit corporations, 107 are nonprofits, and then you have professional corporations are about 11,000, and that includes partnerships entities. So basically, we have about 21,000 new businesses that come to the office to get a business through that office. So Georgia doesn't have any shortage on entrepreneurs. In fact, I think people come to Georgia believing it's a place where you can go on and start a business. So we don't have any short on that, but we also have some issues with how people have to file paperwork. So one of the things I'm planning on doing, and it's a great initiative that you'll be excited to hear about, is I want to call something called Beyond the Gate. And Beyond the Gate is from starting a business to sustaining the business. Because the Secretary of State's office has been the gatekeeper. gatekeepers just keep you right there. You go in, you register your name. After you get your name, you file your paperwork and you get a business and it stops there. So the Secretary of State is the gateway, though, to forming a business. At least that's what I think. So that's why I came up with this idea of calling it Beyond the Gate. You'll get started, you'll get your license. If for those who need that, we want to help you with capital and we want to help you to be able to grow. So the Secretary of State can't do anything by itself, but the office can convene people who can, right? Now, do you want me to stop so you can ask questions, or should I continue with all the things that I'm trying to do? You have any
Oh,
questions?
continue with all your things. And actually, you've answered a couple of the questions that I had. So just continue on, and I'll just make sure I monitor the ones that I have here and see if you
Okay.
already answered them. So yes.
Well, the good thing about being a judge and knowing the law, I know rules, policies. I was the lawyer for Governor Roy Barnes. So I have state executive experience. And I have state executive experience because if you're the governor's lawyer, I had to oversee certain agencies so I understand the appropriations process. Before that, I was the lieutenant governor's executive counsel. Now, both of these I made history as the first African American, but I was also chief of staff for the Senate. So I have legislative background, I have state executive experience, and I have federal experience running an agency. I wasn't the number two person doing it. I ran the agency, which meant that policies and budgetary matters, I understand. So I have to be honest with you. I believe that there's never been a person running for Secretary of State in this state's history with the qualifications, the education, the experience that I bring to this position. It's almost as though God ordained all of that for this moment. And I'm a minister and a pastor. And why is that important? Because we've forgotten so much compassion in our leadership today. And I think that brings that for me. Because many times I may have to work with go across the aisle and have the opportunity to know that as a licensed mediator and arbitrator, which I am as well, I have to know how to deal with people and how to find reconciliation and common ground. I know it sounds crazy because we have a whole state that does a whole lot about dividing people. And I want to see what we can do because that's what business is about. Businesses don't care. Business owners, they have a bottom line. They're trying to help their businesses thrive because when we have good businesses that thrive, that helps us have good communities. And from there, we can have a good legacy. So, what I want to do is implement with this program that I'm doing, which is called Beyond the Gate, is number one, I would like to hold Georgia Regional Business Success Summits. That's really big for me. We think that everything happens around the metro Atlanta area, but that's just not so. We have 159 counties, and I feel an obligation to all of the areas in Georgia. So I want to take these summits around Georgia, Georgia Business Success Tours. That's what I want to do. And I want to have these regional conferences. So Columbus, River Valley, Macon, Middle Georgia, Savannah, Augusta, Albany, Southwest Georgia, Dalton, Northwest, Athens, Atlanta Metro. And then what I would like to do at these summits is have the Secretary of State, Chambers of Commerce, all chambers of commerce, banks, community developed financial institution, credit unions, accountants, attorneys, SBA, economic development authorities, procurement officers, investors, successful entrepreneurs, and I want to bring them all together. Why would I be doing that? Because every business owner needs to leave knowing certain things: how to structure a business, how to obtain licenses, how to protect your intellectual property, how to establish business credit, how to prepare financial statements, how to qualify for loans, right? How to obtain government contracts, how do you attract investors, how to market technology, prepare to hire, how to scale. So I want something that's more than just fluff, right? Because I understand what is needed. The second thing I would like to do, excuse me with the phone ringing, I apologize. Capital Connections Georgia is what I'm going to call this. How do I bring people together to get capital? That is the number one thing that business owners say they need. Like if you have a good idea, you can even have a good business plan. But in the end, if you don't have capital, capitalize that business, then how are you going to get it started? So the government doesn't necessarily have to be a bank to do this, but my office can be a connector. And so I plan on creating a capital connection days where entrepreneurs can meet with banks, credit unions, angel investors, venture capital funds, family offices, SBA lenders, private equity firms, corporate procurement executives, and we bring them together. You're just being a convener. And so we don't just want to invite investors, we want to prepare the entrepreneurs first before they meet the investors. And so that's why it's going to be important that we meet with entrepreneurs to help them to make certain they have their business plan, their financials, their revenue growth, their growth projections, everything that you might need in order to be able to obtain the money that you need. So it's going to be like a Georgia investor showcase. Now, you might say, how do you know you can do this? I used to put on a conference and it was called Sister Talk. And I did that for about 10 years. And people, thousands of women, because I helped 100 women start nonprofits and 100 women start for profits with the Coca-Cola Foundation. They gave me the money. I helped them to be able to pull that together. So I know it can be done. You just have to have the will to do it. So there are already those state mechanisms that we can build on. Georgia State has a small business credit initiative portfolio with nearly 2 million people that has loan guarantees, loan participations, equity venture programs. It's called the Georgia Equity Direct Program. They can invest alongside angel investors, 250,000 to $1 million. You know, a lot of people just don't know about it. So what I want to do is make sure Georgia entrepreneurs know where the capital is, understand how to qualify for it, and then have the opportunity to meet the people who control it. That's it. It sounds very simple, but if nobody is helping anybody do that, then it's almost like you're blocked out of it. And we know that minorities do less than 1% of business with the state of Georgia. Billions of dollars. Even our agribusiness, the number one business in Georgia, is a $91 billion industry. And you're not participating in it because you don't know how to do it. You have to learn what? How to qualify for it. You have to learn how to meet the people who are doing it, where the capital is, and getting ready for that. Well, that's what I believe the Secretary of State would do. It has never been done. It's not being done. But for me, as a civil rights lawyer, that is the next evolution of what access looks like for everyone. Because if you don't know how to qualify, you don't know how to connect, you don't know where the resources are, it's almost as though that the resources are just not available, right? Then how do I plan on doing all this? Well, I want to go with something called the Georgia Business Navigator, where I'm going to use technology. So I look at it like this. Right now, you can track your Amazon package, right? You can tell where your food is coming or whatever. Why are we not using technology in the same way? I plan on using it for voting so that people can know how long the wait is, how many people have voted. It's called accountability and transparency. So, what I would like to do, I'll give you an example. Let's say a person wants to open up a daycare and they come to the Secretary of State's office. The system ought to tell them step one, how to form your business, right? Then step two, it ought to tell you how to obtain the required licenses that you need. Right now, you have to go to all these different places. But if you're coming to the Secretary of State to get your business license, to form a business, why wouldn't I have that? Then we would have local permits. All of this can be done through technology, tax registration, your insurance, financing resources, state procurement opportunities, business development resources. I'd like for the businesses to have a personalized checklist. So how did I come up with all of this? I sat down and I thought about if I'm starting a business, what would I need? And what is not happening for us? And so I want to make certain that I do that. Right now, the license accountability is a big issue in Georgia. It's taking people too long to get their licenses. So I can't do away with the program that they have, which is a computer. It's just not working the way it needs to. But I want to go in there and see publish matrix so that we can get to the bottom of what's going on. People, that means Georgians, need to understand how long it takes to process your license. You need to know every step of the way where it is in the process. What is the renewal time? How many pending applications we have? How many are older than 30 days? How many people are lodging complaints? Resolution times. As a judge, and really as a former prosecutor, I think that it is important for accountability. Right now, there's a backlog, and I want to help people understand what I'm going to have to do when I do that. And then finally, Black business growth, because that's what you care about, right? That's what this chamber is about. And so let's speak to that specifically. I don't want a Secretary of State's office that's competing with chambers. I want a Secretary of State's office that's going to make chambers stronger. And so that means I need to listen to you all. But I would love to be the convener of statewide networks connecting Black chambers and other chambers together. Because I know that's what you all do. As I was reading about it, you're a coalition of Black chambers. Is that right?
Okay, we do have several of our Black chambers as well as Black business entities that are a part of the Georgia Coalition of Black Chambers. However, we do have some that may not be affiliated with it, but we all do the same things.
Okay. Well, do you all meet regularly, maybe quarterly from all over the state with Black chambers and and just chambers of commerce too?
I guess it really depends on the area. I know here that relationship with the Greater Chamber of Columbus, it's we tried to foster a relationship, and it was kind of forced. We're not really sure how. We had an idea of how we wanted to work together because I know that there were opportunities that they were seeing that we were not seeing as an emerging chamber. And we were like, okay, we could partner with you because we know there are opportunities where you're looking for minority businesses, and we have access to those types of businesses. So it was in our minds, it was a good fit. And for whatever reason, it wasn't really working. So to be able to have the Secretary of State say, hey, let's get together and maybe we can find a way to bridge that gap between the minority focused chambers and the greater chambers, that would be very helpful. Shirley Hines, who's one of our chamber presidents, has her hand raised. If you don't mind, I'm going to let her speak. Go ahead, Shirley.
Absolutely.
Hi, good afternoon. Once again, Judge Penny Brown, it's good to see you. We were together at the 100 Black Women event, and so happy for all the work that you're doing. As far as the one question you just asked, I'm in West Central Georgia, and I intentionally reach out to the other chambers to develop partnership and collaboration. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think a lot of times they just don't understand why there's a need to have minority chambers. And just like I explained to them, you have the Hispanic chamber, you've got Korean chamber. So why are you so intimidated with a Black chamber? But I think a lot of it is education. A lot of it is just making sure everyone understand what representation may look like in very different forms of chambers. But I do believe there's a need for more partnership and collaboration. The other thing I wanted to ask you, and I think you've already covered this, a lot of times in my region, the biggest thing is uh, being accessible to the Secretary of State's office, in which people don't want to come to Atlanta, if they can avoid coming to Atlanta. And I know when Governor Barnes was in office, one of the things he was trying to do was centralize some of our state agencies outside of Metro. I think to get your cosmetology license, I think it's in Macon now. But what's your thought on having satellite locations? I think sometimes you may not always have to have brick and mortar, but what are some of the options as far as our rural counties being accessible to your office that does not require them to always come to Metro?
I think that's a great question, and it's absolutely in line with my vision. Now, naturally, everything is going to go based on the budget, right? So once I get into the budget, one of the things that I did when I was at USDA is I did a internal forensic audit. And it starts with the budget so that you can see where the money is. But I can tell you this, even if I go once a month and we go around the state, and you rent a hotel ballroom, or you can go at one of the institutions, there is a way to get to the people if you need to do that without even having a permanent. A lot of times government loves to say, we can't do this because we don't have the resources. Well, sometimes you have to make the resources. So that I know that to deal with the backlog, we're going to have to do somewhat of a triage. So I do plan on having these regional hubs where we will go into these areas, whether they're at Fort Valley or whatever it is in Valdosta, and you give these days on you, and you let people know that if you need to interact with our office, you can come and do it on those days. So immediately within the first 100 days, my vision is to bring the office to the people until we can look at the budget, make some determinations. There's going to be a lot going on in that office. I'll be sworn in January of 2027. You know that we have elections in 2028 with a brand new elections and voting machines, which will require the office going to 159 counties to make certain that we are implementing these machines. And not only that, training the people, making certain they're resourced. But I think that we can do more than one thing at a time because the office doesn't just do elections. So you are correct. This is at top of mind. One of the things that I'm trying to get everybody to understand, we can't have two Georgians. We can't have a Metro Georgia. And I think maybe pulling it out of Macon, but that still leaves the rest of Georgia kind of out in the cold, or even North Georgia. So I just think that it may be economically feasible to bring the people to them. And with technology, you should be able to do that. Even if you have the office and you're there 2 or 3 days, it will make a difference to the people who don't have to travel. So that's what I'm planning on doing. It's something I have to look at. But to be honest, I have to get in there to really see where the money is. I'm going to find it because we are going to. If I can go out here now as a candidate to make my, self to talk to the people. But that's why partners and collaboration is so important. I can get with chambers from all over the state and Black chambers and Hispanic chambers, and we can sit down and come up with ideas. There's a top-down approach or there's a bottom-up approach. And I think we spend too much time telling people how we should supply their needs instead of listening to what they need. But I know that that is a big issue. Yeah, I hear it everywhere I go. Do you have any ideas about that?
Well, I think one of the biggest thing is the collaboration and partnership. I think one of the things, and you mentioned earlier how the state only do business 1% with minority businesses. I think there needs to be something where, budget is always the big thing, but creating those collaborations where those organizations, be it chambers or those organizations that's working with business, have assets or a way to implement that in partnership with the state, and that's allowed them to have the funding to do that. So once again, I'm like you, there's definitely solutions and there's answers
Oh, absolutely.
to everything that we're doing. And I tell, in every small business that I have had a chance to work with, there, I'm truly, those that are staying in business is solving and providing a solution to things in their community. The one other thing I want to ask you or bring to your attention, I had the opportunity last couple of weeks ago to go to the University of West Georgia, and they had a retreat called the Family Business Retreat. And it was interesting to know there, based on what they shared with us, there's really no data to tell you how many family-owned business exists in the state of Georgia. Because when you register, you don't necessarily register as a family business.
Well,
And
that's very solvable because you can
yeah,
grab that data with one question.
really, I mean, for me, moving forward is something that I'm making sure that we're put on our application. But the reason we thought it was so important, because we know family business are the ones that have that longevity, that wealth gap, and so many of our small business have grown to be big business. And so sometimes people forget where they started. And so to make sure that there's public policies in place to support the family ran businesses, I think is something that is needed. So once again, just being able to identify who they are. So for me, when I attended the event, the one thing that I said, I looked at the questions and I said, well, I want to be a part of this because I want to make sure that in this survey that you're surveying minority and Black owned businesses, because the answers and the questions you ask may not necessarily be the same ones that they will respond to. And if you're going to be coming up with policies and program based on the survey, then you definitely need to be surveying minority business in that process.
Yeah, that's an interesting proposition because I know that the Georgia Department of Administrative Services, if you go on their website, they still have a business certification program. And I know that the last couple of years, with everything that's going on with trying to dismantle opportunities for minorities, they still have that program in place, but they expanded it to women and veteran-owned businesses, right? And so the state does recognize a certification process as a pathway for potential government contracts. Because in the end, I believe that businesses are wanting a government contracting pipeline. That's what I want to be able to see. The only way you deal with that, and maybe having a family-owned data that you can capture shows the longevity that you may need with regard to finding opportunities. And so I'm glad you put that there. Any way that we're looking at data and we can try to capture that, that's easy to kind of try to capture. Have you all been participating in any of the certification programs that the state has been using? Anybody on the Zoom tonight? Anybody
We
here?
actually, the chamber, River Valley Black Chamber, we actually have a workshop where we have someone coming to tell our businesses about the certification process for minorities and what that is and how that would be beneficial for them. In addition to that, we're actually giving a scholarship to cover the $600 cost for the certification process. So that is something that I don't think a lot of our minority-owned businesses are aware of. And so we're hoping to bring additional visibility to that.
Well, one of the things that I noticed when I was in the governor's office, it's one thing to get certified, and it's another thing to go to the next level and actually get the business, right? So I want us to make certain that we're doing that, but I think that entrepreneurs are having to deal with a government that often operates in silos. And
Yep.
so what I was telling people, I'm running because I want to believe in not just being this gatekeeper, but a gateway. We want to have the opportunity, the information, the capital, the economic mobility. And it shouldn't matter about your zip code, the size of your bank account. But a part of the problem is people might get certified, but a lot of times people are doing business with people who they know. So if we can have collaboration and transparency and accountability, I think that then that kind of evens the playing field. And when you even the playing field, then that gives access and opportunity to everyone. But these are really good points. I'm glad about this with the business, with this family business retreat. How many people were at that and how many businesses were represented? Do you remember?
It was at the University of West Georgia in Carrollton. There's a family called the Stone family who's based in Carrollton. I can't remember their name of their company, but I think it's interesting. I think they started in 1971 or 1972. They provided a solution to Georgia's DFACS office. And they came up with a process how to pay those who were in that
Yeah.
needing to get a payout. And so they met a need that the state wanted, and in so doing, they created a business that not only they service Georgia, but probably 15 other states. It turned into, it was a husband and wife team, and now they're in their fourth generation of family members who are now running that business.
Wow.
And in so they're committed to helping family business grow and scale, and how to make sure that they have things in place so that they can do it. So they are the benefactor, the University of West Georgia is the benefactor of them building their new business center.
That's
Um,
outstanding.
yeah,
That,
it's
that's
really it was interesting to be there, but let me just say this: there were just not enough people, minority people there to participate, and I don't think it was done intentionally. I think once again everybody works within their network, but once again we brought to their attention other well-known Black businesses here in the state, like This Is It restaurant, how it is a family business that has grown in scale, and that's now doing franchise. We brought to the attention of different family businesses that are in the construction business. So I think a lot of it is just getting the information out. Like you say, stop working in silos. But the thing that I really wanted to make sure is that once you gather this information and you're putting it together to take on the state level, whoever you're going to present it to get funding, I want to make sure that those policies and those programs encompass all the different types of business. So making sure that they talk to everyone so that you can meet the needs of all the different family businesses that are growing. But I do believe that's their objective, and I think they are looking forward to, getting it done. And so I have decided to participate in that survey and get it out to as many small businesses in my region as I possibly can.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. A lot of times is, you have to ask questions. You can reach people, but you have to go to where they are, right? So if you want to reach minorities, then a lot of times you go to the Black church. Do you advertise in Black newspapers? Do you go to places where Black people are generally getting their information source? And so that's why I think that having a collaboration with the government is that if people want to know things, why isn't the government or the Secretary of State's office helping? Because you can get all the certifications you want, but certifications without contracts, that's not economic empowerment. That's just getting a certification. You have to be able to go to the next level. And I think that another thing you have to do, business people are, super busy. I know that generally, if you have a business, you work far harder than you would ever work for anybody else. And so it's just taking the time to say, how would this benefit my business? Because people don't have time to just gather for something, just to talk and share ideas. Is this a networking opportunity? Is this something where I'm going to be able to get capital? How can I increase my business? So I think that when they're marketing certain gatherings together, that's why it's going to be important for me when I do the first one to make certain that it's such that business people feel like it's not a waste of time, that they're coming to something that's almost like a business table where they can come and really get the answers that they need. Because the first thing that businesses tend to do is, did you fill out your paperwork? Not what can I do to help you? And I think businesses have just gotten tired of the runaround. And it is up to us in government. Like, this is going to be a change election. If you want something different, you have to be able to do something different. You have to ask yourself, is my life better than it was 5 years ago? And I can say with a resounding answer that most people around this state are telling me it is not. And so if we want something different, are we willing to do something different? And right now, all we have before us is to vote. And so once we do that, we have to hold people accountable. But people have gotten so cynical because they're just tired of the same rhetoric, people making the same promises. And this is really not that big of a challenge when you have technology to bring people together. But it's like really making people do their job and understanding that their job is not to be a gatekeeper, but we have agencies already in the state of Georgia. There's already money in the state of Georgia that I absolutely believe that people just don't know is there. If we have a small business credit initiative portfolio in Georgia that has $199 million in loan guarantees, loan participation programs, and we're not accessing it, but you can't access what you don't know about. And that's our job. To me, that's our job to get, that's not the public's job. I know that people might say, well, you have to take the initiative. Why am I not taking the initiative to try to get the information out? Now, once we put the information out, if they don't show up, that's another thing. So just like tonight, we have this tonight. People can come if they come. But I just think I like the idea. We just have to know to market to people. One of the things I learned when we were hiring people, and if you want to be able to have diversity, they'll say, well, we couldn't find anybody. Well, you can find somebody if you want to. There are qualified minority businesses doing things. There are qualified veterans that own businesses, and we have qualified women that own businesses. So if you want to find them, then it's upon you. The onus is upon you to go out and try to find them.
I do have a quick question here. And actually, it's more of a statement. uh, during our and during election cycles, and you have candidates that are kind of like getting ingratiated with their constituents, saying that they're small business owners too. And I've spoken to this several times, where their small business, and by SBA standards, a small business can be up to 500 employees. And for the most part, those aren't the small businesses that we're dealing with. We're dealing with small businesses that have 20, 25 to 20 or less employees. And so those are the ones that are, you know, uh, the ones that are established and set up correctly. Those are the ones that are looking for those funding opportunities and these type of opportunities. But again, it's not them that are being afforded this again, and that's the silo and not knowing, not being able to be in the room to know where this information is at. So, how do you think we can better service those type of small businesses? Because again, small businesses is a big umbrella, and for the most part, the ones that are speaking to it usually are on the higher end as far as employees are concerned. But I can tell, like specifically for our region, it's on the lower end, less than 100, less than 50. So how do we navigate that for those types of small businesses?
We know that collaboration is the new capital. So
Hmm.
something is, let's start with my office. You're going to with the Secretary of State's office. You might want to start a business, and then we would have a business directory, and we would have a list of all the chambers, right? So that they can know that there are resources. So you're almost doing like a public-private collaboration to let them know that from the moment they've started their business, they need a place. There's not a hub, right? You need somebody to be the connector for all of
Hmm.
the convener. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to really take the time far after I've left that Secretary of State's office to finally create a place where people can kind of come together to do that. I think that when businesses, I plan on highlighting businesses in particular areas. So that means whether it's a ribbon cutting or putting them in a newsletter so that the public can become aware of them. And then if you know that a business in your area has been started and that information is sent to the chambers, then you all will then reach out to them. I just think we need to do some coordination and collaboration about reaching them because people don't know what they don't know. When you start a business, you're so excited. You have this vision, maybe God has given to you, or you have an opportunity that has come into your lap. Or maybe you're just tired working 9 to 5 and you always dreamed of having your own business. And you read about it, you have your business plan, but unless you have a lot of experience in doing it, we need to have more business mentorships from very successful businesses that have gone on from 5 to 10 years because we know the most vulnerable time for businesses is in that period between 1 and 5 years. And so trying to set up maybe these mentoring kinds of opportunities based on the field that you're in. I just think that we need to do more collaboration and more reaching out to these smaller businesses. I think there are businesses with less than 10 employees and less than 5 employees. I've been watching more than ever, and it's kind of exciting where you're watching these people with these little stands that they're starting up now more than ever. And really, after COVID, things are changing with entrepreneurship. And we're forgetting about entrepreneurship online, whether
Hmm.
it's influencers, that's a whole nother area that we're not just talking about brick and mortar places, but a lot of people are conducting their businesses online. And what collaborative opportunities do we have with them? And the only way we're going to be able to do that to me is just to convene as many in the business community so that we can ask the question, what do you need? How can we best serve you? And then I can't do everything through my office, but what I can do as a constitutional officer and one who oversees business in the state, it would be almost professional malpractice. And I think it's been 23 years that Republicans have had this office, and all they've used it for is a parking place for the Secretary of State to wait until they tried to run for governor. I'm absolutely running for Secretary of State because I know that if we're going to move Georgia to the next level with our communities, it has to be done with our small businesses. An entrepreneur could be one person selling books. It could be a person, a husband and wife that has cakes that they do in the evening. So I think that we are really underestimating the number of people that we used to call them side hustles, right? There are people, but if you don't give them the opportunity, well, my grandfather used to always tell me, don't never have one revenue stream because that
No, that's
person then
right.
will control your future if they
Mhm.
control your livelihood. So I've always been a person that did multiple things. But imagine if you want to take that small thing, like you make all of these wonderful cakes, or you have a graphic business, or whatever it is you might have, and you a mom and pop business. That's why they call them that. You can't even expand that if you don't have the opportunity. You can't expand it if you don't have the capital. But all we do is number one, in that office, we're not even answering the phone. And then the first thing we're doing is, well, did you fill out the form? I mean, what are you talking about? I may not even need a form right now. I just need some information. Can you tell me where I can go? So therefore, me having an office of constituent services, and let me tell you something. I've heard this. I don't know if anybody ever needs something from a United States Senator, but United States Senator John Ossoff has one of the best offices for constituent services. So I'm planning on hiring a team, a division, because what I know is people are going to find out. You know this in business and everything. The one who will answer a question for you are the ones that people keep calling, right? So I suspect whether your grandfather needs an issue or your son has a traffic ticket, whatever it is, because I'm also a pastor. So that means pastors from all over and their congregations are going to be calling that office because they're going to believe that integrity still matters and that if nobody can help us, she might
Even.
can help us. So my goal is going to be to train the staff to say, if we cannot help you, this is what we're going to do to send you to where we think. And this is why. We can't solve the problem. We may not be able to know if this is the person, but we're going to do our best guess to get you to the right entity. It's going to go a long way. And the reason why I know that is I've been practicing law for over 35 years. I've been a judge. 50% of the time, people walk away with the decision because they won. The other 50% of the time, the people didn't win. Why don't we have anarchy, or why do they feel like justice prevailed? Because I always gave them the opportunity to be heard. And if you have your day, that's what fairness and that's what justice is all about. So imagine people, you go, you get registered, you pay your fee to get a business, or you're trying to get a license, you're paying your taxes, and you call an office and you just want to know, well, look, I'm in Telfair County. Where do I have to go to get a license? Well, why not let us put this online for them based on the county? All you do is click your county, and then we just have a link for them, even if it's one link to go to one place, or even if we pick up the phone and say to them, how can I help you? Because that's what I want to say to them. What can we do to help you? And even if our office can't, we will say that with dignity, and we'll start treating tax-paying citizens as customers. Because if a business is really going to thrive, one of the best things that they can do is give good customer service. And so I really think that there are more businesses than we know, because you don't have to have an LLC or a partnership. You can just run something out of your house, or doing what you have to do to kind of make it. Now you have to pay taxes and all of that. But I just think there are a lot of people who would go into business even more if they just had somebody to give them a little help.
Yeah. Shirley, I see your question in the chat, and I think Judge Reynolds answered it or spoke to it. If you can let me know if she did or not, and if not, I'll go
Oh,
ahead and
oh
go through.
yes, yes. That was she answered that
Okay,
earlier.
I
I'm
thought so.
sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
All
I
right.
see that we have I know our time is up, but I have to acknowledge her. I have two people that have joined us. Finye Stewart worked for me at USDA, and he's coming on from Washington, D.C., and so I'm super happy about that. But Jan Prisby Bryson, I don't know, Jan, are you on or you just
She
logged
is.
in? She is on. Jan Bryson is a very successful businesswoman. She started an engineering firm some 22 years ago. She is co-chairing my campaign with
Okay.
Former Governor Roy Barnes. Why is that? Because that's how important businesses are to me. And a minority female business owner, That's how important. So you tell me who are the people around you, and you can know without me even telling you how important to make certain that we do better by our businesses and our entrepreneurs.
Okay. Monte Boynton, who is our VP of Business Affairs, had his hand raised. Monte?
Okay.
Hello, good evening. I'm sorry for not being on camera. Hey, so I love the passion in your voice. You kind of speak the way in which I do when it comes to business formation, business credit, making sure we're getting capital to our businesses. Your words are way better than mine. With you being a pastor, I'll put that to the side for tonight. But someone actually asked answered a great question in chat, and it's actually something I was going to tap on. So we have 159 counties in Georgia, with all those counties having different. Once you get your LLC, that's state. EIN is federal, but then you also mentioned getting your licensing. So that licensing is done. Each county or city has their own licensing, and sometimes we can miss out on a lot of capital when it comes to getting those city licenses. For example, in Muscogee County, when we had COVID, you have to have a business license in order to access some of the funds. But what we failed in our Black community was, because we had businesses that were registered as LLCs, there a lot were not registered in their county. So we missed out on almost millions of dollars in funding to keep our businesses open and keep them thriving. Now, you did mention building a program like what you call Built in Georgia.
Yeah.
Would you be accessing and providing those resources through the chamber? Because all of this information is really educational. So, and I was also thinking about, the technical programs in Columbus, in Georgia. There are 22 technical schools in Georgia. And then we have the Georgia Coalition of Black Chambers, which they're covered all of the Georgia counties. Really, there are 10 chambers, but they almost cover all of the Georgia counties. So how do you envision putting those resources, and where do you envision? Like, for instance, UGA has a small business development center, but theirs is funded through the SBA. It's not funded through the state. So how do you envision getting the information to these rural areas? And I know you were mentioning bringing it to them, but is that something that's interactive via Zoom, or is going to be brick and mortar? Like, how do you actually envision that?
I think it's going to be a combination of everything. First of all, we know that we already had state mechanisms, right? That we can build on that. So let's say the Georgia Equity, I think it's the Georgia Equity Direct Program. And what they do is they invest in angel investors alongside investors. They do that to the tune of $250 million to $1 million under that program. Did you all even know about that program?
Never heard.
So you never heard of it. Okay. So what I did is I've been doing research to gather all of the programs that Georgia already has. Zoom is going to be incredible. And I will have a staff that can constantly have these kinds of gatherings where we do it. But there's nothing like when I got on, your president was sharing with me. It's very different when you're on Zoom and when people gather together. So sometimes you may have to bring someone. So we might have to ask the governor to come, or the lieutenant governor, or they may have to hear from me. You may have to bring something that is an attraction to them. So that's why I said having these regional meetings where we're going to bring these opportunities. One thing I know is the word will start to come out. Yep. The second thing we have to do is we need a portal, right? Where you might even have a dashboard. We started these dashboards at USDA. So let's say you sign up to be a part of getting this Georgia Investor Showcase that I'm trying to do. And then like that, every state program that provides mechanisms or portfolios, we need to list those with the qualification, even if I list it with the link so you can get to it. Right now, we don't even have that. You have to go to the Department of Community Affairs. You have to go to this department. What I'm saying is, listen, why don't we I don't have to get anybody's permission, because as a constitutional officer, I'll be able to do and just get the links myself. But why not? It's bigger than a website. So it's going to be trifold. It's not just one thing. To me, in order to get this word out to 159 counties, we're going to have to do it regionally. But I think with technology, it's going to be so important. Right now, you could be sitting in Savannah, Brunswick, Rome. You can be sitting anywhere and be on this call right now, right? And get the information. But I think that it is still important to take it to the
Face to
people
face.
through regions. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to employ as many things as I can. I talked about collaborating with chambers, but what about collaborating with the SBA, collaborating with other state agencies, reaching out to them? Remember when I was telling you all about my background? Yes, I'm a pastor, but also being a mediator and an arbitrator and understanding the good thing about not being a politician, money is not red voting Republican or blue voting Democrat. It's green.
Oh,
And at the end of the day, if you have somebody focusing on making certain that everybody has opportunity, then I think we're going to be fine. Now, I know that there are forces in this world and people running for office that they don't want others to have opportunities, but that's not our problem because
right.
what we're going to do is get it for them. Now, I see somebody is putting in the chat. Why don't you read that for our
So it
folks?
says another great program that the state has, the SSBCI and GARJA that are handled through DCA.
Yes. So we're using a lot of acronyms.
Yes.
DCA is the Department of Community. Okay, we talked about that, and the Small Business Credit Initiative is the
Okay.
one where I was talking about. They have $2 million
Yep.
that goes with loan guarantees, loan participation, equity venture programs. They have all of those programs. So you're correct. They have all of these great programs. They have more than that. The federal government has programs. But if we don't know
You
about
don't
them
know.
and you know
You
how
don't
to
know what you don't know.
access them,
Mhm.
and one of the things you were telling me about your chamber, most of these chambers are operating on volunteers. You might have 3 or 4 paid people. It's hard running an agency or an initiative or a business with only a few people that are volunteers. But
Mhm.
I don't have volunteers. I have employees. And if you say to them, this is a priority, that is what's going to be the game changer for
Mhm.
someone like me being Secretary of State. The reason why I know it's a game changer, because they have not done it in 23 years. I'll be the first Democratic Secretary of State in this century, not to
Wow.
mention a person of color. It's that none of that matters if we don't give the people what they
What they
need.
want. Mhm.
And so, how do we then make the connection that people need to vote their interests? You want the most qualified person who can vote their interests. And so, yeah, there's a lot out there that we just need to get people to know. And you know, another thing, I'm not going to pretend that it's that hard because I just don't believe it's going to be that hard. Putting all this information either on a website or coming out, I don't care if once a month I have to get on a Zoom. And you do it, y'all are doing such a good job interviewing me, and you all come on.
Come
And
on
then
down.
we talk about the program. You know, we try to make things so difficult, and we've normalized people not getting services that they deserve. My calling is a higher calling, and that's why the integrity is a big piece. I'm not coming. I used to say this. I'm not coming to have a job. I'm coming to do a job.
All right.
There's a big difference. I don't need another title. I am Reverend Dr. Judge Penny Brown Reynolds. I have 3 honorary degrees, but I have an earned PhD, a
Mhm.
Juris Doctor, a master's. So I don't have anything to just hold the title because what's happening now, we get either these backdoor politicians
Mhm.
just come in and they want to keep the same people getting the same thing, or you have people that take these positions because they want to be a celebrity. If I don't get another title, I don't need that. God has called me for such a time as this with the knowledge, the expertise, and the education to do generational changes and not just for one group of people, but for all people. Because I know for me, I serve a God. I don't know about other people, that I don't deal in the scarcity of politics. Scarcity of politics is what makes us think that there's such limited resources that that's why you're not getting contracts with the state. That's scarcity of politics. I
Mhm.
deal with a belief that there's an abundance of enough for everyone. When I talk to these people in South Georgia and around this state, Some of them are barely making $8 an hour, $7.50 an hour. They're having to work 2 and 3 jobs. They live in their mobile homes, or they're trying to pay for their apartments. They're trying to make it the best way they can. So when you already not making anything. You already don't have health care. So that means you're working sick. That means you don't paying $4 for gas. You can't pay for child care.
Mm-mm.
I'm just naming some things.
Right.
Your mother has to go in hospice. They have to put them in a nursing home. Think about how people are living. And I don't think that matters what color you are. I think that what we're missing is the compassion that what can government do? Government doesn't have a problem giving contracts to Elon Musk.
Hmm.
I mean, he's one of the biggest persons that get federal contracts than anybody else. But when certain people want to access certain dollars and cents, although we're good enough to pay taxes, and I just think that you deserve to get a return on what you do. I'll close with this. Our time is far spent, but the young people have been saying to me, what's in it for me? I'm so excited they asked that question because I'm actually having it printed on a t-shirt. What's in it for me is that you have a choice to know that you are worthy of better than what we've been getting. And the only way we can do that is to vote and put the right people in office that are going to fight for us. And then once they get in office, hold me accountable. Come back to me a year from now and say, Judge Penny, you remember you were on our Zoom and you promised to at least put a list together. And if I haven't done it, then I need to tell you why I haven't done it. And I need to be held accountable. And we're just not doing that. I want to thank you all for this opportunity. For those of you who stayed past the time, I am really feeling the momentum. I have the passion, and I'm excited about what the future holds for all of us.
Yes. I'm like you got me fired up. I didn't know really what to expect from the call. I mean, other than the traditional business town halls, but you have like, I'm all about accountability for our elected officials and agreed. I mean, we made a accountability agreement with our local mayor-elect. So you got it. I'm gonna let you know if I'm gonna be looking for those links. But thank you. Thank you so much, Judge Reynolds. This has been a very informative, very spirited conversation. Again, just like Monte said, Monte, he gets fired up too. Not as reserved though, but the passion is there as well. I'd like to say again, thank you so much for joining. Mrs. Hines, thank you so much for chiming in as well. Always a pleasure to have you on. You always bring light to a lot of things that I may miss. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for your former staff for joining us tonight. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Thank you for hanging out with us for a little bit longer. I absolutely did not expect it to last this long. But the information that we acquired tonight was very useful. Blessed by the conversation, blessed for meeting you in person and not just seeing you on the website as a candidate.
Thank
Again,
you. Can I just tell you about my website, as any good business person would?
yes, ma'am. Sell yourself. Yes, ma'am.
pennyforgeorgia.com. And remember that October the 5th is the last day to register to vote. It's not enough that we're going to vote. We have to get people to out. And early voting starts October 13th through the 30th. It's not a voting date, it's a voting time. And so we want you to vote, and then November 3rd. Thank you all so very much. And God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.